Now is the time. The time to enact rebel mischief. I solemnly swear from this day forward that I, Tommy from Tommy Nation Politics, I'm up to no
If you
good.
work in a team, you should be using Monday.com. It's a platform to manage any team and any workflow. Marketing, sales pipelines, construction, creative productions, you name it.
Taking votes on the floor. So the vice.
That was technical difficulties right there. I'm starting the show, guys. Starting the show early. Why am I starting the show early? Breaking news. Tommy from Tommy Nation Politics. So today I got banned from Facebook. I was trying to get my message out about Tommy Nation Politics, about how this is now Rebel headquarters. This is the home for anti-establishment independent media. This is Tommy Nation Politics. And I only really have one thing to say when it comes to the censorship. And I'm going to go ahead and let General Commander Leia Organa say it for me.
The more you tighten your grip, Tommy, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
The more you tighten your grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers. This is the resistance, guys.
The more you tighten your grip, Tommy, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
This is a revolution.
I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
My friends, this isn't any ordinary time we live in. This is where history repeats itself. This is where war has come to Middle-earth, out of the minds of Moria, out of the star systems, out of the galaxies far, far away, into the minds of Kessel. This now is war. And you have to ask yourselves, who are you? Are you a loyalist, or are you a patriot? Today, from 3 hours ago, we had breaking
Fellow
news, guys.
Americans, 4 years ago, we launched a great national effort to rebuild our country, to renew its spirit, and to restore the allegiance of this government to its citizens.
In short, we embarked on a mission to make America great again for all Americans. As I conclude my term as the 45th President of the United States, I stand before you truly proud of what we have achieved together. We did what we came here to do, and so much more. This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous. We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word. I'd like to begin by thanking just a few of the amazing people who made our remarkable journey possible. First, let me express my overwhelming gratitude for the love and support of our spectacular First Lady, Melania. Let me also share my deepest appreciation to my daughter Ivanka, my son-in-law Jared, and to Barron, Don, Eric, Tiffany, and Lara. You fill my world with light and with joy. I also want to thank Vice President Mike Pence, his wonderful wife Karen, and the entire Pence family. Thank you as well to my Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, the dedicated members of the White House staff, and the Cabinet, and all of the incredible people across our administration who poured out their heart and soul to fight for America. I also want to take a moment to thank a truly exceptional group of people, the United States Secret Service. My family and I will forever be in your debt. My profound gratitude as well to everyone in the White House Military Office, the teams of Marine One and Air Force One, every member of the armed forces, and state and local law enforcement all across our country. Most of all, I want to thank the American people. To serve as your president has been an honor beyond description. Thank you for this extraordinary privilege, and that's what it is, a great privilege and a great honor. We must never forget that while Americans will always have our disagreements, we are a nation of incredible, decent, faithful, and peace-loving citizens who all want our country to thrive and flourish and be very, very successful and good. We are a truly magnificent nation. All Americans were horrified by the assault on our Capitol. Political violence is an attack on everything we cherish as Americans. It can never be tolerated. Now more than ever, we must unify around our shared values and rise above the partisan rancor and forge our common destiny. 4 years ago, I came to Washington as the only true outsider ever to win the presidency. I had not spent my career as a politician, but as a builder looking at open skylines and imagining infinite possibilities. I ran for president because I knew there were towering new summits for America just waiting to be scaled. I knew the potential for our nation was boundless as long as we put America first. So I left behind my former life and stepped into a very difficult arena, but an arena nevertheless with all sorts of potential if properly done. America had given me so much, and I wanted to give something back. Together with millions of hardworking patriots across this land, we built the greatest political movement in the history of our country. We also built the greatest economy in the history of the world. It was about America first because we all wanted to make America great again. We restored the principle that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Our agenda was not about right or left. It wasn't about Republican or Democrat, but about the good of a nation, and that means the whole nation. With the support and prayers of the American people, we achieved more than anyone thought possible. Nobody thought we could even come close. We passed the largest package of tax cuts and reforms in American history. We slashed more job-killing regulations than any administration had ever done before. We fixed our broken trade deals, withdrew from the horrible Trans-Pacific Partnership and the impossible Paris Climate Accord, renegotiated the one-sided South Korea deal, and we replaced NAFTA with the groundbreaking USMCA. That's Mexico and Canada, a deal that's worked out very, very well. Also, and very importantly, we imposed historic and monumental tariffs on China, made a great new deal with China. But before the ink was even dry, we and the whole world got hit with the China virus. Our trade relationship was rapidly changing. Billions and billions of dollars were pouring into the U.S., but the virus forced us to go in a different direction. The whole world suffered, but America outperformed other countries economically because of our incredible economy and the economy that we built. Without the foundations and footings, it wouldn't have worked out this way. We wouldn't have some of the best numbers we've ever had. We also unlocked our energy resources and became the world's #1 producer of oil and natural gas, by far. Powered by these policies, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. We reignited America's job creation and achieved record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women, almost everyone. Income soared, wages boomed, the American dream was restored, and millions were lifted from poverty in just a few short years. It was a miracle. The stock market set one record after another, with 148 stock market highs during this short period of time, and boosted the retirements and pensions of hardworking citizens all across our nation. 401ks are at a level they've never been at before. We've never seen numbers like we've seen, and that's before the pandemic and after the pandemic. We rebuilt the American manufacturing base, opened up thousands of new factories, and brought back the beautiful phrase, made in the USA. To make life better for working families, we doubled the child tax credit and signed the largest ever expansion of funding for child care and development. We joined with the private sector to secure commitments to train more than 16 million American workers for the jobs of tomorrow. When our nation was hit with the terrible pandemic, we produced not one, but 2 vaccines with record-breaking speed, and more will quickly follow. They said it couldn't be done, but we did it. They called it a medical miracle, and that's what they're calling it right now, a medical miracle. Another administration would have taken 3, 4, 5, maybe even up to 10 years to develop a vaccine. We did it in 9 months. We grieve for every life lost, and we pledge in their memory to wipe out this horrible pandemic once and for all. When the virus took its brutal toll on the world's economy, we launched the fastest economic recovery our country has ever seen. We passed nearly $4 trillion in economic relief, saved or supported over 50 million jobs, and slashed the unemployment rate in half. These are numbers that our country has never seen before. We created choice and transparency in healthcare, stood up to Big Pharma in so many ways, but especially in our effort to get favored nations clauses added, which will give us the lowest prescription drug prices anywhere in the world. We passed VA choice, VA accountability, right to try, and landmark criminal justice reform. We confirmed 3 new justices of the United States Supreme Court. We appointed nearly 300 federal judges to interpret our Constitution as written. For years, the American people pleaded with Washington to finally secure the nation's borders. I am pleased to say we answered that plea and achieved the most secure border in U.S. history. We have given our brave border agents and heroic ICE officers the tools they need to do their jobs better than they have ever done before, and to enforce our laws and keep America safe. We proudly leave the next administration with the strongest and most robust border security measures ever put into place. This includes historic agreements with Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, along with more than 450 miles of powerful new wall. We restored American strength at home and American leadership abroad. The world respects us again. Please don't lose that respect. We reclaimed our sovereignty by standing up for America at the United Nations and withdrawing from the one-sided global deals that never served our interest. And NATO countries are now paying hundreds of billions of dollars more than when I arrived just a few years ago. It was very unfair. We were paying the cost for the world. Now the world is helping us. And perhaps most importantly of all, with nearly $3 trillion, we fully rebuilt the American military, all made in the USA. We launched the first new branch of the United States Armed Forces in 75 years, the Space Force. And last spring, I stood at Kennedy Space Center in Florida and watched as American astronauts returned to space on American rockets for the first time in many, many years. We revitalized our alliances and rallied the nations of the world to stand up to China like never before. We obliterated the ISIS caliphate and ended the wretched life of its founder and leader, al-Baghdadi. We stood up to the oppressive Iranian regime and killed the world's top terrorist, Iranian butcher Qasem Soleimani. We recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. As a result of our bold diplomacy and principled realism, we achieved a series of historic peace deals in the Middle East. Nobody believed it could happen. The Abraham Accords opened the doors to a future of peace and harmony, not violence and bloodshed. It is the dawn of a new Middle East, and we are bringing our soldiers home. I am especially proud to be the first president in decades who has started no new wars. Above all, we have reasserted the sacred idea that in America, the government answers to the people. Our guiding light, our North Star, our unwavering conviction has been that we are here to serve the noble, everyday citizens of America. Our allegiance is not to the special interests, corporations, or global entities. It's to our children, our citizens, and to our nation itself. As President, my top priority, my constant concern has always been the best interests of American workers and American families. I did not seek the easiest course. By far, it was actually the most difficult. I did not seek the path that would get the least criticism. I took on the tough battles, the hardest fights, the most difficult choices, because that's what you elected me to do. Your needs were my first and last unyielding focus. This, I hope, will be our greatest legacy. Together, we put the American people back in charge of our country. We restored self-government. We restored the idea that in America, no one is forgotten because everyone matters and everyone has a voice. We fought for the principle that every citizen is entitled to equal dignity, equal treatment, and equal rights because we are all made equal by God. Everyone is entitled to be treated with respect, to have their voice heard, and to have their government listen. You are loyal to your country, and my administration was always loyal to you. We worked to build a country in which every citizen could find a great job and support their wonderful families. We fought for the communities where every American could be safe and schools where every child could learn. We promoted a culture where our laws would be upheld, our heroes honored, our history preserved, and law-abiding citizens are never taken for granted. Americans should take tremendous satisfaction in all that we have achieved together. It's incredible. Now, as I leave the White House, I have been reflecting on the dangers that threaten the priceless inheritance we all share. As the world's most powerful nation, America faces constant threats and challenges from abroad. But the greatest danger we face is a loss of confidence in ourselves, a loss of confidence in our national greatness. A nation is only as strong as its spirit. We are only as dynamic as our pride. We are only as vibrant as the faith that beats in the hearts of our people. No nation can long thrive that loses faith in its own values, history, and heroes, for these are the very sources of our unity and our vitality. What has always allowed America to prevail and triumph over the great challenges of the past has been an unyielding and unashamed conviction in the nobility of our country and its unique purpose in history. We must never lose this conviction. We must never forsake our belief in America. The key to national greatness lies in sustaining and instilling our shared national identity. That means focusing on what we have in common, the heritage that we all share. At the center of this heritage is also a robust belief in free expression, free speech, and open debate. Only if we forget who we are and how we got here could we ever allow political censorship and blacklisting to take place in America. It's not even thinkable. Shutting down free and open debate violates our core values and most enduring traditions. In America, we don't insist on absolute conformity or enforce rigid orthodoxies and punitive speech codes. We just don't do that. America is not a timid nation of tame souls who need to be sheltered and protected from those with whom we disagree. That's not who we are. It will never be who we are. For nearly 250 years, in the face of every challenge, Americans have always summoned our unmatched courage, confidence, and fierce independence. These are the miraculous traits that once led millions of everyday citizens to set out across a wild continent and carve out a new life in the Great West. It was the same profound love of our God-given freedom that willed our soldiers into battle and our astronauts into space. As I think back on the past 4 years, one image rises in my mind above all others. Whenever I traveled all along the motorcade route, there were thousands and thousands of people. They came out with their families so that they could stand as we passed and proudly wave our great American flag. It never failed to deeply move me. I knew that they did not just come out to show their support of me. They came out to show me their support and love for our country. This is a republic of proud citizens who are united by our common conviction that America is the greatest nation in all of history. We are and must always be a land of hope, of light, and of glory to all the world. This is the precious inheritance that we must safeguard at every single turn. For the past 4 years, I have worked to do just that. From a great hall of Muslim leaders in Riyadh to a great square of Polish people in Warsaw, from the floor of the Korean Assembly to the podium at the United Nations General Assembly, and from the Forbidden City in Beijing to the shadow of Mount Rushmore, I fought for you, I fought for your family, I fought for our country. Above all, I fought for America and all it stands for, and that is safe, strong, proud, and free. Now, as I prepare to hand power over to a new administration at noon on Wednesday, I want you to know that the movement we started is only just beginning. There's never been anything like it. The belief that a nation must serve its citizens will not dwindle, but instead only grow stronger by the day. As long as the American people hold in their hearts deep and devoted love of country, then there is nothing that this nation cannot achieve. Our communities will flourish, our people will be prosperous, our traditions will be cherished, our faith will be strong, and our future will be brighter than ever before. I go from this majestic place with a loyal and joyful heart, an optimistic spirit, and a supreme confidence that for our country and for our children, the best is yet to come. Thank you and farewell. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
God bless us. God bless us, everyone. God bless the president. God bless all who were elected to serve this country. God bless we the people of the United States. We the people of the United States. Did you hear what the president said? He came to restore to we the people the promises that were in the Constitution, that all men are created equal under the law, that we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings to ourselves and to our posterity. Has this happened? Has this happened since, I hate to say it, Republicans, but Ronald Reagan with his neoliberalism? No, it hasn't. This has been a 40-year deal, guys. This has been a war going on. It's been a war that's been going on, raging for so long now, that the corporations think that they're people. As Mitt Romney thought and said in the 2012 election, he said, corporations are people, my friend. Corporations are not people. People are people. People have blood. People have skin. People have hearts, souls, minds, and bodies. Corporations don't have any of that. They have boards. They have board of directors. They have investors. And they have think tanks. Think tanks like American Progress, near Tandon. They have board of directors like corporate people like Boeing, the military-industrial complex, Raytheon, and the banks. Those are not people. Do I have a board of directors? Do I have investors? Well, I have a few investors. Veronica, one of my investors. Lindsay Barlow, one of my investors. Jefferson Parker, one of my investors. They're people, though. They're not corporations. I hate to say it, guys, but I'm not invested in by any corporations. No, none of them like me. You know why? Because I don't fit in a box, guys. I don't fit in a box. From the year 3 of my existence, I have hated the conventional wisdom and the social norms. Hated it. I hate it. Why? Why do we have to kiss up at Brownos to people that don't want our best interests at heart? Why do we have to do that, guys? Guys, why do we have to pretend that we like people that we don't like, that we think are scumbags? People like Joe Biden, who incarcerated this country, half this country, and was paid off by the prisons in the military-industrial complex and the war machine, the military-industrial complex. Why do I have to pretend that I like this? Just because I want a guy like Trump out? Look, guys, I don't think that Trump is the brightest bulb in the basket. I don't think that he's right all the time. I don't believe in Q. I thought that Q was really weird. Fairy tale, ditzy land. Warlocks, magi, all kinds of stuff. I'm not a right-winger, okay? I don't believe in warlocks and magi. But I do believe in America. I do. And these two wings, the left and the right, we were supposed to fly together. It wasn't until around the time where we were trying to push for our civil rights, Black people, that the establishment decided that we were going to not participate in unity anymore. We're going to participate in divide and conquer. Divide and conquer, my friends. That's a game I don't like to play, and that's the game I know very well because it's a game that they tried on the Black people. They tried on the Jews. They tried on the Irish. You see it all these movies, guys, in Hollywood. Gangs of New York. They've tried it so many times. This time it's actually been working. This divide and conquer. This right and left thing that they've been doing. I'm not a part of it, guys. I'm willing to work with the right and the left because we all have different. You know why there's a right and a left, guys? It's not because we're evil. It's not because we're super Luciferian warlock magi. The left is supposed to care about the people who. Okay, so the right is supposed to care about the common defense. You know, they're all about weaponry. They're all about protection. They're all about stuff like that. And the left is supposed to care about, while the right's concentrating on that, the left concentrates on, okay, who are the people that are left out? Who are the people who don't have a voice? Who are the people who don't have jobs, right? So while the right concentrates on our defense, the left concentrates on our welfare. And together we were supposed to fly. Together we were supposed to fly. I don't know what happened to that. I don't know how it came to be that we started blaming each other and demonizing each other, because we were supposed to do that. We were supposed to focus on our shit and fly together. And there was a man named Martin Luther King who reminded us about that. And I'm so glad it was Martin Luther King Day, guys, because he had some great words for us. He had some great words about nonviolence, about love, and making sure that the blessings of our posterity are come into fruition. That was the message of Martin Luther King. It wasn't until later, when he was not talking about Black nonviolence and equality, when we got our voting rights after Selma, he started talking about democratic socialism and how there's only socialism for the rich and not the poor. And that was the time that the Federal Bureau of Instigation decided that he had said enough words. Martin Luther King, he wasn't concerned at all, though. He'd already said, I'd been to the promised land. I have been to the promised land. And I have been to the mountaintop. And I've seen what was about to happen. What happened was the left and the right did come together. We did. And we will again. Because there is a common enemy. His name is Joseph Elizabeth Biden. It's not just Joe Biden, though. He's a middle manager. He's the middle manager of an oligarchical system, a class system that is un-American and must be fought. He is a middle manager symptom of a bigger problem, the problem of the censorship and the ruling class. He is a symptom of a bigger problem. The bigger problem is that we need to get off our asses and stop being silent and stop forgetting the values that were put forth with our founding fathers. And we need to remember what our founding fathers said on day one, that the tree of liberty must flow with the blood of tyrants and patriots alike in order to grow. And this is a time in our history where I call upon you and I call upon the history. I summon it. Remember who we are. Tommy Nation Politics.
Why do you call yourselves white? You people are more pink than white.
Precisely.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
Restaurants can live or die by online reviews. But as one local restaurateur found out this week, not all complaints stem from food or service. When Keith Harmon's phone started buzzing with Facebook notifications, he noticed a flurry of negative reviews posted to his Center Street Cafe page. The Jamaica Plain restaurant had become a target for trolls, unhappy that a cafe employee had posted something negative about a local Donald Trump rally on his personal Facebook page. Center Street Cafe owner Keith Harmon joins me now, and I should say co-owner, right?
Co-owner. My two business partners, David Doyle and Mariceli Perez-Alaires, couldn't be here today.
Got it. Start by telling me a little bit more about this post that sparked the backlash that you're here to talk about. What was the video and what was the comment or the comments that the employee made?
You know, it was a video that has been shared lots of other places of a local Make America Great Again Trump truck rally. And in the video, there's some racial slurs and, you know, what I would consider hate speech. And so it was shared with, you know, I can't believe this is happening. And it was certainly calling out that group as kind of being thinly veiled white supremacists. Mm-hmm. So they must have found out about the post and they started attacking him on his personal Facebook page. And as far as I can piece together, you know, he has on his Facebook page that he works at our restaurant, and so they jumped over to the restaurant and started with a slew of one-star reviews, very, very negative, calling him out by name, essentially trying to cost him his job at the restaurant.
And you found out about this because your phone started buzzing, or was there some other way that it came to your attention?
So I think everyone in the restaurant industry, we're feedback junkies, so it's all about reviews and table touches and getting people's honest opinion. So we're all set up to get notifications whenever we get reviews. And so I noticed one review come in, and I opened that was 1 star, and then another one came in, and that was 1 star. And as I was opening that, the email started from my managers. And then the third 1-star review came in, and it was really, really negative and called him out by name. And then, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and before I knew it, there were 13 or 14.
In the span of about how long are you talking about?
Like 4 hours, but the first 6 or 7 were literally in like an 8-minute span, something like that.
So what does it feel like when you're watching this happen? Was this in the middle of the rush, by the way, like the dinner rush, lunch rush? Or?
Well, that was my night to be home with my daughter, and so I was actually at home. I think during the rush, I probably wouldn't have noticed right away because I would have been on the floor. I just had a lot of shock as it sort of dawned on me what was going on. And then, you know, it's fearful in a couple of ways. I'm concerned about him personally once you kind of realize what's happening. And then also, you know, restaurants, they live and die by their reputation. And even if you live in a neighborhood, you know, people tend to look at online reviews and get an impression of what to expect first, and for that to be their first impression is really bad.
Was this seems like a mundane detail, was this Yelp? Was it Google reviews?
This was Facebook, actually. This was Facebook. So, yeah, it was
So did you contact Facebook? I'm assuming that you would want to go to them and say, hey, something's happening here that's not kosher.
It turns out you can't actually call Facebook, which I suppose makes sense. But what you can do is report posts for different reasons, as like not being relevant or having hate speech, stuff like that. So all of my managers and myself, we started reporting things as being inappropriate. And at this point, actually, about half of those initial reviews have come down.
Half of them. So there's still, what, 6, 7 reviews?
Yeah, there's still, I think now there's 7 or 8 one-star reviews, and it's some pretty nasty stuff out there. But I have to say, and you would probably ask me about it, you know, the business itself has no political stance. But I put something on my Facebook page saying this is how my day is starting now, and a couple of people that I know, one Seamus Moynihan, who's big in the Jamaica Plain music community, and one Misty Kalkofen, who's big in the local and national hospitality industry. They shared it, and what happened next was like a string of 50 or 60 5-star Facebook reviews, and at this point they keep coming in, which is amazing and, you know, heartwarming. And I think now we've had like 160 or 170 5-star reviews in the last day and a half. I mean, it's gratifying, but again, you kind of, first of all, for every 1-star review, you need 10 5-star reviews to just bring you back to the average, which is a good way to look at love as well. Like if you have one terrible thing, you really got to like dominate it to make up for it. So. But also, you know, I don't really want any fake reviews, positive or negative. Now, a lot of people who reviewed us, I know they've been in the restaurant, they're supporters, and I think they took this as an opportunity to go and make a review. But for the review system to work, it's meant to be accurate, and it actually is a really good consumer tool.
Did you get anything in person? Anyone coming in and hassling you or your employees? Anyone calling and giving you a hard time?
We haven't. This will be our second service in. So, you know, we haven't had anything negative in the restaurant. We have had talks with all the employees about, you know, we want everyone to leave through the front door, and all the managers know to call the District 13 desk if there's any problems, and we've talked to them to get a little sort of game plan of what to do if something does happen. But so far it's been actually a really big outpouring of support.
Just briefly, did you give them any sort of exhortation to avoid posting about politics on their Facebook pages if they were connected with the restaurant?
I did personally, but not professionally. And I want to say that I happen to agree with what this employee put up, but even if I didn't, I would really strictly believe that he has the ability to say whatever he wants, and I wouldn't let it affect his employment. On a personal level, I think, you know, and what's scary about this whole thing is that, you know, the types of attacks, and when you look at some of the reviewers' Facebook pages, it's some pretty dangerous stuff. And so I suggested to him personally he might want to lay low, because I don't want to see him get in any trouble.
All right, Keith Harmon, thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much. Next time we'll
At bottom, a reaction to the reluctance of white power to make the kind of changes necessary to make justice a reality for the Negro.
They broke the glass? Everybody stay down! Get down! Oh my God, they got fire on them. What do you need?
I'm good.
Are you okay?
I can't.
This is Ned Brooks inviting you to Meet the Press.
Meet the Press, America's press conference of the air, and winner of every major award in its field, is a public affairs presentation of NBC News.
Our guest today on Meet the Press is Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who led the Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. Dr. King, who is the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, is president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He is in San Francisco, where he delivered a sermon this morning for Bishop Pike at the Grace Cathedral. Our panel of reporters is in Washington, D.C., and we'll have the first question now from Lawrence C. Spivak, permanent member of the Meet the Press panel.
Dr. King, former President Truman was quoted by the AP as saying that the march from Selma, and this was his word, was silly and can't accomplish a darn thing except to attract attention. Now, there have been 2 murders, many beatings, and a federal expenditure for troops of about $300,000. Would you say that what the march accomplished was worth that cost?
Well, first I would say that the march was not silly at all. I would think that the march did more to dramatize the indignities and the injustices that Negro people continue to face in the state of Alabama and many other sections of the South, more than anything else. I think it was the most powerful and dramatic civil rights protest that has ever taken place in the South, and I think it well justified the costs that we put in it. Now, of course, we are sorry that a death occurred immediately after the march, and I'm sure that all people of goodwill are outraged and in deep sorrow as a result of the death of Mrs. Liuzzo. But after all, we know in a nonviolent movement that there are these possibilities, and we go on with the faith that unmerited suffering is redemptive.
Dr. King, I think the demonstration was largely to get your voting rights bill through. Was it necessary for that purpose? Aren't you going to get that bill? And wouldn't you have gotten it, whether or not you marched?
Well, the demonstration was certainly for the voting rights bill. However, we must recognize that there are other very tragic conditions existing in the state of Alabama which are as humiliating, as degrading, and as unjust as the denial of the right to vote. Namely police brutality. And we marched on the state of the capital of Alabama to protest the long night of brutality, the constant murders that continue to take place in that state, for after all, under the administration of Governor Wallace, there have been 10 persons actually killed and murdered, and nothing has been done about it. There have been untold bombings of homes and churches. Again, nothing has been done about this on the whole, and we were marching there to protest these brutalities, these murders, and all of the things that go along with them, as much as to gain the right to vote. So it was a twofold march aimed at trying to rectify the conditions of Alabama and expose the evils that are deeply engulfed in that state.
Dr. King, you had your great demonstration, and Governor Leroy Collins, head of the Community Relations Service, hoped there would be a respite from demonstrations in Alabama in order to give the state an opportunity to solve some of the problems. Do you think there should be a respite in Alabama now?
Well, here again, with the murder of Mrs. Liuzzo on the eve, the night after the march, I can't see how there can be a respite. This is a state that continues to deal with human life as it is nothing. This is a state that continues to make murder a sort of nice pastime and gives respectability to resistance and defiance of the law. This is a state that continues to do all of the things that are contrary to our democratic creed, at least the political power structure of the state. And in the light of this, it seems to me that it will be necessary to continue to demonstrate until these conditions are removed. We don't believe in demonstrating for demonstration's sake. We don't have demonstration fever, but we do feel that as long as the conditions of injustice and man's inhumanity to man infiltrate that state, it will be necessary to demonstrate in order to bring these issues to the surface and lay them square before the conscience of the nation.
Then, as I understand it, Dr. King, you see no end to demonstrations at the present, either in Alabama or in other sections of the country?
No, I don't. I don't believe in the indiscriminate use of demonstrations, but I think as long as we have the problems with us, we're going to have demonstrations. And I think in the immediate, we must face the fact that Alabama has not come to terms with its conscience. Too many people of goodwill, and I do feel that there are many white people of goodwill and very decent white people in Alabama, but they have abdicated responsibility to the governor and to the sheriff clerks and to the Bull Connors. And for this reason, we feel that we have a moral obligation to keep these issues before the public, before the American conscience, before the mainstream of our nation, so that somebody will do something about it, and demonstrations have proved to be the best way to do this.
Dr. King, would you list for us the barriers remaining which you believe must be destroyed before you and your followers will stop these demonstrations and give the South the chance to catch up?
Yes, first, there must be an agreement on the part of the political power structure of the South to guarantee the unhampered right to vote. This must be done with zeal, and it must be done with good faith. And this means removing every obstacle, including the poll tax. Now, there are some states in the hardcore South and other sections of the South that still have the poll tax in state elections, and we feel that this must be removed. Secondly, we confront the problem of brutality from sheriffs and from other police forces, from other law enforcement agents, and we feel that before demonstrations can cease, something must be done to end this kind of unnecessary abuse of police power and what we see as outright police brutality. Third, I would like to say that if our demonstrations are to stop, there must be some equality in terms of grappling with the problem of poverty. We have a poverty bill which has been nobly initiated by the President of our nation and the Congress, but in the South, so often, Negroes are denied the opportunity to be a part of these programs. They are not denied the possibility, the opportunity to be a part of the administration of them. And we feel that if demonstrations are to stop, Negroes must be brought into the very central structure of the whole poverty program. And then along with that, I think that is a great necessity to get every local governmental agency to go on record for being in line with law and order. All of these things are necessary before we can call a halt to demonstrations.
We'll be back with Meet the Press and more questions for our guest, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. First, this message.
Now back to Meet the Press. Please remember, questions of our panel do not necessarily reflect their own point of view. Here is your moderator, Ned Brooks.
Resuming our interview, our guest today on Meet the Press is Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who is in San Francisco. On our panel of reporters in Washington, D.C., you have just met Lawrence Spivak. Our other reporters today are Tom Wickert of the New York Times, James J. Kilpatrick of the Richmond News Leader, and John Chancellor of NBC News. We'll continue the questions now with Mr. Wicker.
Dr. King, you said a moment ago that Alabama was a state that gives respectability to the resistance and defiance of the law. And you listed an observance of the law by local agencies in the South as one of the cardinal aims that you were seeking. Yet on March the 9th, you led the second march on Montgomery, in violation of a federal injunction not to march. You said that order was unjust, and John Lewis, one of your colleagues, said that the Negroes had a constitutional right to march, injunction or no injunction. Now, was that in keeping with the spirit of nonviolence and the restraint that has always characterized your movement, and could you explain your reasoning in defying the court order that day?
Well, let me say two things to that, Mr. Wicker. First, I did not consider myself defying a court order that particular day. I consulted with my attorneys before the march, and they stated that they felt that it was an invalid order and that it would not be, that I would not be in contempt of court violating the court order if I led the march to the point of having a moral confrontation with the state troopers at the point where the people were brutalized on Sunday. So I still don't consider that breaking a court order or breaking what I consider an unjust law. On the other hand, I must be honest enough to say that I do feel that there are two types of laws. One is a just law and one is an unjust law. I think we all have moral obligations to obey just laws. On the other hand, I think we have moral obligations to disobey unjust laws, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. I think the distinction here is that when one breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust, he must do it openly, he must do it cheerfully, he must do it lovingly, he must do it civilly, not uncivilly, and he must do it with a willingness to accept the penalty. And any man who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and willingly accepts the penalty by staying in jail in order to arouse the conscience of the community on the injustice of the law is at that moment expressing the very highest respect for law.
Well, I can sympathize with a good deal of that, but it seems to me you get into a very difficult point here at which one man's conscience is set, in fact, above the conscience of society, which has invoked the law. How are we to enforce law when a doctrine is preached that one man's conscience may tell him that the law is unjust when other men's conscience don't tell them that?
And I think you enforce it, and I think you deal with it by not allowing anarchy to develop. I do not believe in defying the law, as many of the segregationists do. I do not believe in evading the law, as many of the segregationists do. The fact is that most of the segregationists and racists that I see are not willing to suffer enough for their beliefs in segregation, and they are not willing to go to jail. I think the chief norm for guiding the situation is a willingness to accept the penalty. And I don't think any society can call an individual irresponsible who breaks a law and willingly accepts the penalty if conscience tells him that that law is unjust. And I think that this is a long tradition in our society. It's a long tradition in biblical history. Meshach and Abednego broke an unjust law, and they did it because they had to be true to a higher moral law. The early Christians practiced civil disobedience in a superb manner. Academic freedom would not be a reality today if it had not been for Socrates, and if it had not been for Socrates' willingness to practice civil disobedience. And I would say that in our own history, there's nothing that expresses massive civil disobedience any more than the Boston Tea Party, and yet we give this to our young people and our students as a part of the great tradition of our nation. So I think we're in good company when we break unjust laws, and I think those who are willing to do it and accept the penalty are those who are part of the saving of the nation.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
In drawing your distinctions between just laws and unjust laws, Dr. King, do you distinguish between statutory laws, such as a local ordinance requiring segregation, and the law that is promulgated by a court in the form of an injunction?
Yes, I do distinguish between these. It does depend, however, Mr. Kilpatrick, on the court that renders the decision, and it does depend on the situation. There can be no gainsaying of the fact that many of the state courts actually misuse and abuse the judicial process. And I would make a distinction here between a decision that comes from a state court that is committed to preserving segregation and a federal court that is committed to bringing the basic and underlying truths of the Constitution into being. One distinguished jurist has said, justice too long delayed is justice denied. And we have seen courts that have delayed justice and in the process denied justice. So I would make a distinction here, but I think that the situation is one that has to be taken under consideration.
In your book, you describe the opinion of the Supreme Court in the school segregation cases as just law, if you recall. Suppose the Supreme Court were to decide in some particular case against the interests of the demonstrators, as the court very nearly decided in January in the Cox case. Would you then regard such an opinion of the Supreme Court as unjust law to be disobeyed?
Well, that's a rather iffy question, Mr. Kilpatrick. I would have to face it when I come to it, or when we face that in our society. I happen to feel that the Supreme Court has made a decision that it will never reverse. On the other hand, I might say that one has to understand what I mean by just law. I think a law is just which squares with the moral law, and I think a law is unjust which is out of harmony with the moral laws of the universe.
Then the Supreme Court in the past has been unjust, has it not then, in those cases in our history when it upheld segregation?
I think there are laws that have come into being that I considered unjust, and I think the moral conscience of the nation considered unjust. This does not mean that the persons who rendered the decision were unjust people or that they were evil people. It simply meant that at that particular time they did not have the foresight to see what, let us say, back in 1896, Justin Holland saw. They differed among themselves. While most of the jurists rendered a decision making separate but equal the law of the land, there was a Justin Holland who said at that time that the Constitution is colorblind and rendered a dissenting opinion, which has now become the majority opinion of our country.
Dr. King, we have reports from Atlanta which indicate that you will recommend to the nation's labor unions a nationwide work stoppage to keep the plight of Alabama Negroes before the country. Now, can you give us some details on this plan?
Yes, Mr. Chancellor. I think the conditions in Alabama have degenerated to such a low level of social disruption and such a low level of man's inhumanity to man that the whole conscience of the nation must rise up and engage in some kind of creative, firm action program that will bring the business leaders and the decent people of Alabama to the point of bringing pressure to bear on Governor Wallace and other officials who are responsible for this reign of terror. I left Alabama last week after the march feeling that we had made a great triumph, and we certainly did in the march, and that maybe we would see a brighter day all over the state of Alabama. But the fact is, Governor Wallace refused to see those who had a petition to present, and not long after that, Mrs. Lasswell was brutally shot down in an automobile on Highway 80. This is just one other example of something that we've faced in the state of Alabama for a number of years. Consequently, I think that it is necessary for the nation to rise up and engage in a massive economic withdrawal program on the state of Alabama. To put it another way, I think the time has come for all people of goodwill to join in an economic boycott of Alabama products. So I'm, in a few days, planning to call on the trade unions to refuse to transport or use Alabama products. I hope to call on all Americans to refuse to buy Alabama products. And I hope to call on the Secretary of Treasury of the United States to withdraw all federal funds that it has on deposit in Alabama banks. And finally, I think it is necessary to call on all federal agencies in line with the 1964 Civil Rights Bill to withdraw support from a society that has refused to protect life and the right to vote.
Mr. Spivak.
Dr. King, the columnists Evans and Novak recently charged that the moderate Negro leaders, including you, have feared to point out the degree of communist infiltration in the civil rights movement. Have communists infiltrated the movement?
I certainly don't think so, Mr. Spivak, and I would like to vigorously deny that. I have no evidence for such an accusation, and I might say that in our bylaws, certainly in SCLC and the NAACP and CORE and SNCC and the Urban League and all of the civil rights organizations, we make it clear that communists cannot be in official positions and cannot be in the membership. Beyond this, I think I could say that the philosophical undergirdings of our movement would make communism impossible and would have communists on alien territory. For our movement has been based and is still based on a philosophy of nonviolence.
Dr. King,
Yes?
the AP reported the other day that a picture of you taken in 1957 at a Tennessee interracial school is being plastered all over Alabama billboards with the caption, "Martin Luther King at a communist training school." Will you tell us whether that was a communist training school and what you were doing there?
Well, number one, I don't think it was a communist training school. In fact, I know it wasn't. The Highlander Folk School, which was referred to in that particular article, was a school that pioneered in bringing Negroes and whites together at a time when it was very unpopular to train them for leadership all over the South, and I think they did an able job in doing it. This school was supported by some of the great Americans such as Eleanor Roosevelt, Reinhold Niebuhr, Harry Golding, and many others that I could name. Secondly, the fact is that I never attended the school as far as training goes. I was there about 1 hour back in 1957 or 8. I went to deliver an address for the 25th anniversary of the Highlander Folk School. I got there about 15 minutes before I was to speak. I spoke about 45 minutes, and then I left immediately after my speech, and I think that's a pretty short period to get any training.
Mr. Wicker.
Dr. King, your movement has been distinguished for its nonviolent approach, but your people are under great pressures in many cases. How deeply do you fear the eruption of Negro violence in pursuit of Negro rights?
I feel that we will continue to have a nonviolent movement, and we will continue to find a vast majority of Negroes committed to nonviolence, at least as the best tactical approach, and from a pragmatic point of view as the best strategy in dealing with the problem of racial injustice. Realism impels me to admit, however, that when there is justice and the pursuit of justice, violence disappears, and where there is injustice and frustration, the potentialities for violence are greater. And I would like to strongly stress the point that the more we can achieve victories through nonviolence, the more it will be possible to keep the nonviolent discipline at the center of the movement. But the more we find individuals facing conditions of frustration, conditions of disappointment and seething despair as a result of the slow pace of things and the failure to change conditions, the more it will be possible for the apostles of violence to interfere.
I'm sorry, but I see that our time is up. Thank you very much, Dr. King, for being with us.
So, before I ask you the first question, what's happening with the telescope and the stuff?
Oh, gosh. The challenge is ongoing. The challenge is ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that?
So,
just explain.
They decided, it was decided that they were going to go on sacred land.
Oh, yeah.
And put up a telescope and do all this stuff. And the Hawaiians said, no, you're not going to do that. So it's been a fight. Tulsa's been at the forefront. Yeah. And I try to bring it up you know, when I can, because it's, I think sacred land is sacred land. You can't, you know, you can't mess with it. So I have to ask you this instead. So we were just talking about EU Ambassador Sondland changing his testimony yesterday, that he had to be refreshed about quid pro quo, and you've been skeptical more than a lot of the Democrats about the impeachment inquiry. Were you surprised by what he did yesterday?
Well, look, the facts are important, and we'll get to that. I want to start with something that I think is also important about facts, because recently on your show here...
I was just going to get to that.
Good. Helping you out.
You want me to ask you the question?
No, look, some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on.
They use that.
I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am.
All right.
Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
We're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves, but Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing. Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote for you.
Joy, this is why
you're on Tucker Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace's show?
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
Well, Hillary Clinton started it, and then you shot back at her, boy. You called her the queen of warmongers.
You doubled down, unfortunately, you doubled down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier. Because of the attacks on 9/11, I enlisted in the military to go after and defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. I've served now for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East during the height of the war, where every single day I saw firsthand the terribly high human cost. That's why I ran for Congress.
We actually have the clip of Hillary Clinton, just to put this in context of what we're talking about. Let's take a look at that.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of, sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far. That's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
So
really? I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous and offensive on so many levels. I've served as a member of Congress now for almost 7 years, receiving high-level national security and intelligence briefings, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, working to ensure the safety and security of the people of this country. This is why I'm running for president, to continue that commitment of service.
So are you surprised, though, that when people see bots and things and all the things that we've sort of been seeing heading your way, that people have these questions? Because she's not the only one. Hillary, I don't think, is the only one. So what she's saying is she feels they are grooming you. You're saying nobody's grooming me. I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm a soldier and a patriot.
It's offensive to me as a soldier, as an American, as a member of Congress, as a veteran, and frankly, as a woman, to be so demeaned in such a way.
But you called her the personification of rock.
So demeaned
She's a woman
in such a way. Well, I'm pointing to the fact that she has continued this legacy of being the world's police around the world, that has waged wars costing the lives of thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform. I'm speaking out against that, and
What's your evidence to that?
To change.
Well, can I?
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
I served in the war in Iraq.
Not you, her. You're saying that she's
exactly.
She's a warmonger.
I served in the war in Iraq that she championed. She championed a regime change war in Libya.
Did you not believe in that war?
I believe the lies that were told to us.
Well, so did she.
Look, it is indisputable. It is indisputable to say anything other than the fact that Hillary, let me just close this out, that Hillary Clinton throughout her career has led with a foreign policy of interventionism and being the world's police, going and toppling dictators in other countries that has caused such destruction and loss of life. I'm against that. I'm running for president to change that. Rather than actually debate me on the issues, she and others are resorting to these smear tactic campaigns, seeking to undermine me, smear my character, and sending a message to anyone who dissents. Stand, toe the line, or you too will be smeared.
Facebook is trying to delete me. Big Tech is trying to delete us, our movement. We must stop them. You are smart. Long ago, you stopped believing in the corrupt corporate media. You canceled the newspapers and cable shows and began reading your news from social platforms. Dominant on those platforms were conservative voices, like mine. We are the Americans who did not have a voice in traditional media. Honestly, do you think the left wants me to have a platform to speak? But I can have a voice. Here, on my own social platforms. I can be heard. That freedom infuriates the left, who used to own complete control over our information. So they hatched a plan to silence me and all of us conservatives. And Facebook is paying them for it. Here is how it works. In 2016, hysterical liberals had to find someone to blame for their humiliating loss to Donald Trump. In their minds, they could not possibly have lost due to their own horrendous candidates or policies or their own failing message, so they attacked the one thing that they did not have total control over: social media companies. They applied extreme pressure to silence or censor fake news, which was just a fancy way of saying news that they don't like. Facebook bent to that pressure and created a fact-checker network with godlike powers over all of us. Here is how Facebook fact-checking works. A website you have never heard of, run by partisan beta leftists, stalk the pages of your favorite conservative personalities. Whenever we say anything they disagree with, these fact-checkers write a vicious partisan hit piece. Then they harass us and our audience by slapping hazardous warning labels on what we have posted. Many times, those labels say missing context or disputed. Yes, thanks, Facebook. Every political argument in America is disputed. Every argument is indeed missing some context. But the insanity continues. These hack checkers, as I like to call them, would be just an annoyance, but Facebook gives them the ability to destroy the reach of our content, so we cannot communicate with you. They demonetize our pages so we can't make a living producing content for our audiences. And here is the breathtaking part. Most of these fact checks are pure partisan bile. They are false, fake, untrue. But there is no recourse for your favorite conservative creators. We are held at gunpoint by these partisan hacks, and Facebook is giving them the gun. This is why I am suing the Facebook fact checkers. I'm suing them on behalf of you, your favorite creators and news sites, on behalf of our freedom of speech and thought. So who are these hack checkers? Well, I'm suing a site called Lead Stories. Lead Stories is run by a former CNN employee of 26 years who makes a living cannibalizing and slandering conservative content and creators. His website has published disputed fake news stories, including one that went after my content personally. And so I'm going after him personally. Here is an important question. Who funds Lead Stories? According to their own masthead, Lead Stories is funded by Facebook and Google, along with ByteDance. And what is ByteDance? It's a Beijing-based company that owns the TikTok spyware app. Our own Justice Department says the company is a national security threat and compromised by the Communist Party of China. Facebook, then, is paying for fact checkers funded by an arm of the Communist Party of China to censor my content here in America. The Communist Party of China has more say over my content than the First Amendment. This is insanity. It's un-American. It's dangerous. And it needs to stop. This is why I am fighting. Our freedoms are at stake. Our movement is at stake. We know these battles are taking place all over the world. Do you wish to support me in my efforts against these hack checkers? Well, the easiest thing you can do right now is share this video. If you wish to donate in support, you can head to www.factcheckzuck.com. We will fight, and we will win.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We'll have the latest on those riots in Minneapolis last night. And yes, they were in fact riots, no matter what they're telling you on the other channels. That's a fact, and we have the tape. But first tonight, we're going to state the obvious. Donald Trump tweets an awful lot. Many wish he didn't do it. He does it anyway. It's often his preferred mode of communication. Now, whether or not it's politically wise for him to do this, Donald Trump has an absolute right as an American to express what he actually thinks, even if every other person on earth disagrees with him. When they used to tell you this was a free country, and they often said that, that's what they were talking about, the freedom of speech. Well, sadly, it's become a much less free country recently. Power has become radically concentrated in far fewer hands than at any time in the past 100 years, at least. And the people who wield that power have no interest whatsoever in your right to say something they disagree with. In fact, they're delighted to silence you if you try. They're not embarrassed to admit that they do this. They don't pretend anymore. Twitter, for example, now openly purges users whose political views their executives don't like. It's bewildering if you think about it that they're allowed to do this because, like all the big tech companies, Twitter only exists, its CEO is only a billionaire, because Twitter enjoys key exemptions from federal law, exemptions that you don't enjoy and we don't enjoy here at Fox News. It has those exemptions because Congress carved them out for the big tech companies. And that means Congress has the power to defend your free speech online. The White House does too. And yet they've done absolutely nothing so far to help you. Until yesterday, Twitter returned the favor by leaving the commander-in-chief's Twitter feed alone. And then Trump criticized mail-in voting. The president tweeted that mail-in ballots could be, quote, substantially fraudulent. Well, as a factual matter, that is true, and we can prove it. As we told you last night, mail-in ballots have been linked to numerous cases of election fraud. People have been criminally convicted for it. So it's really not up for debate. But this is an election year, and mail-in voting is now the central objective of the Democratic Party, and so you're not supposed to know any of that. Yesterday, Twitter placed a so-called fact check on the president's tweet. Quote, Trump falsely claimed that mail-in ballots would lead to a rigged election, Twitter announced. Fact checkers say there is no evidence that mail-in ballots are linked to voter fraud. End quote. Now, again, as a factual matter, that is a lie. There's no other way to interpret it. But worse than a lie, it is a form of political censorship. So who decided to do this, to censor it? Well, Yoel Roth has the Orwellian title, Head of Site Integrity at Twitter, an irony-free zone where they don't understand that their titles alone are scary. That means he's one of the company's censors. Now, not surprisingly, Roth is a political activist and not an especially subtle one. In January 2017, Roth compared Kellyanne Conway to the Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels. That same day, he referred to the president's new staff, just moving into the White House, as actual Nazis. And a lot more. You can look up his Twitter feed if you want, assuming he hasn't pulled it down by now. So these are the people controlling what you're now allowed to think and say in America. They're authoritarians. If they're willing to censor the president, they will think nothing at all of silencing you, and they don't. They gladly do it, and no one pushes back. Traditionally, that role, the role of pushing back hard against censorship, was reserved for reporters. Their job was to safeguard the First Amendment, which is designed to protect the weak. Not the strong. The weak are protected by the freedom of speech. And journalists were supposed to care about the weak, about the public, their readers and viewers. They weren't supposed to be simply thugs hired to protect the powerful, but that's what they become. Watch Don Lemon of CNN, who in his defense often has no idea what he's saying, try to bully Twitter into censoring ideas the authorities don't care for.
Twitter wouldn't remove those tweets, and they wouldn't come on the show to talk about their decision to let this disgusting smear stand. People have been removed from Twitter for far less outrageous behavior. Come on, Jack Dorsey. Stop hiding behind the First Amendment and for profit. Stop doing it. Do the right thing.
Stop hiding behind the First Amendment, says Don Lemon. In the annals of cable news, that must be the most unintentionally hilarious line ever uttered by a script reader. As if exercising your God-given inborn right to speech and thought and conscience is somehow wrong. It's immoral. Don Lemon demands that you stop thinking for yourself, fall in line, get on board, obey, toe the party line, or we'll hurt you. That's his message. And it's the mirror image of what journalists should be saying. The only reason we have a free press, there's only one, and that's to fight back against authoritarian power structures that demand we read from approved scripts. And now CNN is writing those scripts. It's terrifying. And all of a sudden, it's everywhere. Throughout April and May, YouTube, part of Google, took down any video that, quote, explicitly disputes the efficacy of global or local health authority recommended guidance. If you dared to question the decrees of the politicians, some of whom are impressive and wise, many of whom are dumb and making it up as they go along, but if you criticized them, you were censored, and many were censored for doing that. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg recently explained why censorship isn't really bad. In fact, it saves lives.
If someone's spreading something that puts people at imminent risk of physical harm, then we take that down. We don't allow that on Facebook. There are also other misinformation that may not lead to imminent risk of physical harm, but still isn't the type of stuff we want to be spreading through our system.
So this month, Facebook announced that it's expanding this effort. It announced the first 20 members of its new oversight panel. That panel will help decide which ideas can be expressed in public and which ideas must be thrown into the fireplace and forgotten forever. And you can imagine who's on the panel. It's a list of political activists and aggressive opponents of free speech. Stanford law professor Pamela Karlan headlines the group. Pamela Karlan, look her up when you have a minute. What do you think she cares about more? Safeguarding your sacred constitutional rights or keeping Donald Trump from getting reelected in the fall? That's a rhetorical question, by the way. You know the answer.
When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot.
Well, let me read what you say in your preface. You say, "Let me state here, and now that these essays do not mean, 1, all Southern whites were or are rednecks, 2, all black Americans today or in the past were or are black rednecks. One cannot predict," you write, "much less forestall all the clever misinterpretations that others might put on one's words. The most that can be done is to alert honest people to the problem." Black rednecks, who are they?
These would be blacks who came out of the Southern culture and who carried that culture with them north into the urban ghettos and into the ghettos of the South for that matter. And who have not moved out of that culture since. Over the years, both blacks and whites have moved away from that culture. But in the poorest and worst of the ghetto areas, there are lots of people who have not. And these kinds, it's a culture which didn't do whites any good. And it's certainly not doing blacks any good today. And the tragedy is that people regard this culture as somehow the authentic black culture, and therefore you're not to interfere with it.
You may not fall in love with who you're voting for.
I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
Black English is considered not quite proper English. On the other hand, if blacks happen to have all the power and own all the corporations and whites were working for them, it would be the other way around.
There was a period, I'm trying to remember now, I believe it was in the mid-70s, when substandard English began to become viewed as a discipline of its own within linguistic studies and so forth. And for all I know, it was all perfectly legitimate that certain speech patterns would be traced back to various regions in Africa and so forth. And this is a language of its own. It has its own validity. But the argument, your argument would be, I don't really care what its validity is. It's holding people back. It's preventing them from participating in the wider society. Is that right?
Absolutely. And also, none of these things went back to Africa.
Oh, is that so?
No. You can. Yes, they did not go back to Africa. If you look at the piece, for example, using the word axe for ask and stuff like that, all of that goes back to the South, and it goes back to the parts of Britain from which white Southerners came. So if you trace the calling hog entrails chitlins, that was in a certain section of Britain, the section from which whites moved into the South, and they were known as rednecks and crackers in Britain in centuries past, before they ever set foot in the South. So the whole thing is as phony as the $3 bill.
In Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the intelligence expert, IQ scientist James Flynn, that just stopped me cold. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany. For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today. And both black and white American soldiers had children with German women. And Flynn discovered that those children growing up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. The black kids and the white kids, the same. Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of black soldiers in Germany grew up in a nation with no black subculture, close quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations. Is this the...
No, the expectations are external. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gangster rap that was pervasively available in Germany.
So here's what I'm getting. There is something about black subculture in America today that holds African Americans themselves back?
Yes, because that very same subculture held whites in the South back as well. That in the time, this mental testing in the First World War turned up, among other things, the fact that whites from various 4 or 5 southern states scored lower on the mental test than blacks from 4 or 5 northern states. And so it really was a question of the subculture that was there, which was a handicap to both. I could go on for days about the social degeneration, but let me give you just one quick example. When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot. Now, I'm sure someone fired a gun somewhere in Harlem, but it was not such a pervasive thing that you had to hear it. You know, I have relatives in Washington. I asked them the same question. People in my generation.
Growing up in Washington, D.C.
Yes, and low-income black neighborhoods. Did you ever hear a gunshot when you were growing up? And the answer was no. I have relatives in North Carolina. I asked the same question. No. And now, you know, people in housing projects especially, they put kids, some of them, to bed in bathtubs so that they won't be hit by stray bullets in the night. Now we take it for granted that there's tremendous levels of crime and violence in the black community. That was not always the case. In the 20s, it was very common for white celebrities, including George Gershwin and William Faulkner, to go up to Harlem not only for entertainment places, but to go into private homes of people they knew. And Gershwin played Rhapsody in Blue in this home where Walter White lived. Milton Friedman, when he was a graduate student at Columbia, he and the lady he later married would go dancing at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. And he said, we had no fear of being mugged or accosted on the street or anything like that.
I've heard you say, Tom, when you were a boy growing up in Harlem yourself, your own neighborhood felt totally safe to you.
Not totally safe. I wouldn't exaggerate, but there's nothing resembling today. I mean, I did sleep on hot nights. I would sleep out on the fire escape. When I tell people in Harlem that today, they think I'm from another galaxy, you know. But that people slept on the fire escapes in New York and in the public parks in the 30s, all over the city, because it was not a jungle. And you could run through a great number of other things. Children raised without 2 parents present. That was about 22% in 1960. One generation later, it was 67%, and it's gone up a little since then as well. And now the rate among whites is higher than it was among blacks in 1960.
Right.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take
responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters,
our friends, our family. We are done watching them die.
How do you define a white liberal?
Those kinds of people who have the kinds of attitudes that are called liberal in the United States, although the word is misused, those people have created an atmosphere in which these counterproductive cultures are to be celebrated, perpetuated, and the consequences overlooked. It reminds me of a scene in the Blue Max where this general is encouraging this daredevil pilot to do all kinds of wild stunts, you see, knowing that the guy's going to kill himself if he keeps doing this, and therefore the general will be rid of a political problem. Now, I don't think that the white liberals are doing this deliberately, but I think the net results are the same. They are cheering blacks on and doing things that are absolutely self-destructive.
One of the things I discovered in the research for my book I'm currently working on is that leaders of groups that are lagging in countries around the world almost invariably have counterproductive policies for them. And it makes perfect sense because insofar as members of lagging groups assimilate into the values and achievements of the larger society, they don't need those leaders. I mean, there's no mystery to me as to why Jesse Jackson says what he does, or Al Sharpton and others, because that benefits them, but it does not benefit the people they lead. And all the incentives are for leaders to lead people into things that don't help the people, but help the leaders.
What you'd create there would be an exception for Dr. King, though, wouldn't there?
Yes, but one of the things
he was different because he was earliest, or what? Why? What's different about it?
Well, it's like insurgent movements in general. When an insurgency starts off, by definition, it has an uphill battle. Now, and you can look at the history of Christianity, for heaven's sake. If you're going to be a Christian in the Roman Empire, you know, before in the first century, you had a lot of grief to go through. Now, but after Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire, this is a bonanza, and there's a lot to be done. And so now you will follow policies that are the opposite of what you advocated. You will see that with all kinds of other insurgent movements.
Somewhere, watching this interview, there's a young Thomas Sowell. There's an African American who's smart and wants to do something with his life. It seems to me we've already got one piece of advice you'd offer to him is stay away from the racist industry. Stay away from the race hustlers. What advice would you give a young Thomas Sowell? How do you make something of yourself as an African American in America today?
The way anybody else would. You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for.
Stay away from the race hustlers. Stay away from the board markets, from the money changers, from the wicked, wicked, wicked witches of the West. Heard, Thomas Sowell. I ain't feel no ways tired. I ain't got no respect for no American people. My name's Hillary Clinton. I was sold out 15th fucking century, before there was a selling market, before there was a marketplace. I, Hillary Rodham Clinton, do solemnly swear to make sure that I keep black people on the plantation, to make sure that I smear my political rivals, to make sure that no matter what happens in the Democratic Party, nothing, I say to you, nothing will fundamentally change ever, ever, ever. Hi guys, this is Tommy Nation Politics. Hope you guys like my collage, my wonderful videos. Videos showing up the thoughts, the heart of Dr. Martin Luther King. And the people that came after him, such as Thomas Sowell, Candace Owens, Thomas Salisbury, fourth in my name. We heard him. We heard him. I heard you, Dr. King. Nonviolence, I heard you. Ethical speaking, strong arguments, I heard you, Dr. King. I heard you. But is it enough? Are the strong arguments enough? Is the wondering that the American people we the people established in the Constitution of the United States of America, is that enough? I don't know. Because here we had two elections, 2016, 2020, establishing a movement, a progressive movement. We should have health care during a pandemic. But we should have a living wage for all American citizens. But we should have ourselves a government that works for all of us and not the people. And we should have ourselves a government that works for all of us and not the people. And yet, Dr. King, I know you've been to the promised land. I know you've been to the mountaintop, Dr. King. But here today, the only person, the only coalition that wins in this United States of America, United States of American, is apparently the con. Tomorrow, guys, the guy that incarcerated half of the American people, the guy that was a pawn for the military-industrial complex, for Raytheon, Boeing, the military-industrial complex, and any kind of board of corporate industry that you can positively recollect in your minds, will now be the princess of the ball. He will be the president, the CEO, the chief executive officer, the co-establishment, middle management, maitre d' of the United States of America. And everyone's laughing. God, that Trump, he did not just fit in with the social norms. He didn't fit in with the conventional wisdom. He was so weird, wasn't he? Talking about he was going to inject himself with disinfectant. Talking about how he got all the dates wrong on the Spanish flu. It's so important. Oh my God. How could this guy, this dumb motherfucking guy, become the president of the United States of America? He's not like the other guy. He's not like Barack Hussein Obama. He's not like the guy who expanded the wars from 2 to 7, who with Raytheon and Boeing, the military-industrial complex, bombed across the Middle East, from Afghanistan and Iraq to Libya, Somalia, Yemen, Kuwait, and a whole bunch of other countries. He was not the one. He was not the one. He's not the one who took all of our military equipment after buffering the budget of the military. So much money, guys, so much money that we gave the military during Barack Obama's presidency that they gave the rest of the equipment to the police. The police. You know how y'all hear defund the police, guys? Defund the police. So liberal. It's a liberal thought, right? It's a liberal thought. Well, these police that these liberals now want to defund. Once upon a time, we had so much military equipment that we didn't know what to do with after we finished bombing 8 different countries. We literally took that equipment and we gave the police tanks. We gave them bombs. We gave them missiles. We gave them, there were tanks grinding down San Francisco Avenue and 1600 Pennsylvania Boulevard. There were tanks. These liberals then now want to defund the police. Everything these guys say is a lie. And so it's only fitting that now, my friends, this lie, I mean, it was fitting that beforehand, we're so engulfed in branding and marketing, consuming as an American people, that we would have as president of the United States a mogul businessman who likes to put his name on everything. It's only fitting, right? But now we're so engulfed in a lie. We're so engulfed in our own grandeur, the delusions of grandeur, as Han Solo put it in Star Wars, the delusions of grandeur, that we ourselves have slipped into a lie fantasy, guys. And now, beyond all imagination, we have ourselves a new liar-in-chief, a commander not of the military, not a head of a state, but a commander-in-chief of a lie, of a transparent, since March, robbing us transparently, a lie. We are now engulfed and headed by a lie. I see now I have a friend here. Hey.
Hello.
Trevor again.
Yeah.
You listening to my monologue?
I just got on, but I caught the end of it, and I like it. I like it. I mean,
what do you think of this? Okay, so last time you came on, you're a Juris Doctor, and I listened to you because I don't know a lot about the law. The only thing I know about the law is fuck the police. Just be real. I'm a rebel. This is Rebel Headquarters. This is Tommy Asian Politics. This is Rebel Headquarters. This is the anti-establishment zone. And just today, I was literally banned from Facebook for 7 days for just talking about Mark Zuckerberg. That's all I was doing.
Really?
Literally all I was doing was talking about Noam Zuckerberg, and I have a song about him. He's butthurt about it. I know that Snoopy bitch knows about the song, bro. I know Snoopy bitch probably listens to that song every day. He's like, oh, motherfucker. You know? It sucks, bro.
Right. You're not missing much. You can't even talk to anybody more over Facebook. You really can't.
You can't, bro. Their community standards are 800 pages.
I know.
Who knows what the fuck is in those shit? Literally, I said I wrote PHAT, like pretty hot and tempting, to like some dude that I was talking to. All of a sudden, before I even send it, bro, they're telling me, you better delete this shit immediately.
See, that's being a little too proactive.
Wow.
I mean, we all type out emails and just read it.
Talking about. Y'all have no idea. They're like, it's bullying. It's not bullying. It was flirting. But y'all
maybe you just want to type it out. It's therapeutic. Read it, and then you're like, all right, just delete it. I mean, but they can't do it ahead of time. That's like what is that show? Minority Report. I mean, that's like busting in before you've even committed the crime.
Everybody runs. Bro. Everybody runs, man.
That's right.
I love those Tom Cruise movies. They're so intense. Everybody runs. Everybody runs.
And everybody's shorter than him too.
He's out of breath, and he hasn't even done anything yet.
I like the homoerotic Top Gun scene where he's spiking the volleyball. All 5'6" of him. He's just up there. I'm like, yeah, that's
he does his own shit though. So what's going on, Trevor? Like, what do you want to say? Like, what's your today is political economy of the mass media. Okay,
right.
Noam Chomsky's manufacturing consent, and I'm talking about how the fact that, and you might not agree with me, and it's okay because it's okay to not agree with people. We're all different people.
I'll let you know.
But they're censoring and they're doing proactive shit in the technocrats in the ruling class, and Chomsky basically said that this is no longer a media, like a medium for media. It's now a like retail and purchaser thing where you buy what they're selling, and what they're selling is not truth. It's something else. It's political. It's an economic package. It's not truth anymore. It's not journalism.
Yeah, you cannot separate manufactured consent from the atmosphere that it's in. It's capitalism, and when you have capitalism, what drives capitalism is profit, and what drives profit, it comes before social programs or social justice. It comes before the environment. It comes before everything. The more ruthless you are, the more profit you make, and if you're not, you're going to lose out. And that's what capitalism is based on. And so you have a media conglomerate that's run by 6 corporations right now. They're merging. I think they're down maybe 5, and by 2040, they're going to probably be down to 2, maybe Disney and GE. GE is one of them, right? And
why you knew the mouse was going to be coming out on top.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. What's you know anything about Semite, by the way?
What?
Disney, the anti-Semite.
I know. There's so many things. Oh my God. I mean, they were anti-black before anti-black was popular. Disney was. They were. So.
Well,
that's what I'm talking about. These corporations, man. They just literally.
They're gonna push out. The media controls. What you see. It controls our reality. It literally controls our reality and what we see and how we think. And then you're going to apply your own life to what they're saying on the screen. If it's telling you, if you're having a hard time at work, it's going to tell you that, this is the reason why, and it could be, they could be competing with each other, but as long as you push the rich, the corporate and the rich person's narrative, and you don't ruffle feathers and you just get them, because it's not about politics. It really isn't. It's about money. It's about money, and that's it.
Only about money.
That's the only thing it's about.
It's the root of all problems and the root of all evil.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. And these people, they don't have a party. I don't believe they even have a country. They have a hole and they want to fill it. And they want to protect wealth that they can never even spend, even at the detriment of their grandkids, futures. They cannot see past that. And you cannot have a capitalist function, and you can't have a media that's controlled where you can fire and promote whoever you want, just like a private organization, right? Because they're going to do your bidding, right? Because you'll fire them otherwise, if they don't learn their lesson. And you're going to have this. You're going to have a corrupt system like this unless you remove what it's based around, capitalism. Back in the 80s, when I was a kid, I thought that unions were bad. I don't think that anymore, but I remember seeing it. Why would it ever be a bad thing for workers to be able to negotiate with management? Why would that ever be a bad thing? I mean,
what's funny to say, Trevor, about the unions? It's funny that people change their views on that a lot, because like now you're saying, as a kid you didn't think so because of how you were raised, but now you think so because it's just illogical. But the Young Turks, like people like the Young Turks, who were the anti-establishment rebel headquarters at the time. Oh, yeah. They loved unions, right? Until someone decided to unionize against Cenk Uygur. And then all of a sudden now he's not a union guy because he took $24 million from the Clinton donors, and he's got himself an online cable news show. And now that he's not an independent media person, now he hates unions. So it's just so funny how, like, the richer you are, the more you hate unions and the more you hate, people like try to do that stuff. It sucks. Why can't we have morals? Why can't we have principles and values?
There was a psychological study that was been done repeatedly. I don't know if we talked about it, but where they found that they took groups and they found that the person that got the more power in the group lost empathy, and they attributed to wealth as well. And they did a couple of very interesting studies, but the conclusion was basically the more money and power you get, the less empathy you have. So where you see people, poor people usually helped by other poor people. The rich people, you have to literally make yourself, because our default setting is not to do it apparently. You have to make yourself remember to help others, to give, to be charitable. because you will automatically fall into this entitlement that is based on nothing but power. It literally, that's what it does. I mean,
here's my admin. Randy, are you on? Are you on?
Trying to.
You're an echo. Randy, I see your. I see your mouth. What's that echo? You there,
I don't know.
echo?
She's sideways to me. Is she sideways to you?
Hold on.
Randy, can you stop together real quick? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Okay, and then I'm gonna come back in. Anyway, like we were talking to Trevor. So, the reason I like you so much, though, is because you have a lot. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you have a wealth of studies. And everything I've learned is street smarts. Even like the stuff that I've learned here about, the political economy of the mass media, is literally just by watching as a kid. Everybody talk about weapons of mass destruction, and there being no weapons of mass destruction. As a kid, I remember, okay, everybody's talking about it, and nothing happened. I didn't have any, like, I have a Bachelor of Arts in music. Okay, so if you want to talk to me about music, I know all about that. But what I've gotten from political, stuff is just the fact that I've watched all these people lie a million times, and nothing ever comes out of it. And the funny part is, like, everybody, it's on both sides. The Republicans, the Q. Here you have this group of guys who literally said that Trump was the Messiah. He couldn't be stopped, right? The Q. Guess what? He did his farewell address today. Okay? You got the left wing who's talking about how the Democrats are going to have a supermajority, and they're a supermajority. They're going to be so strong. There's never going to be another Republican. Now, they're saying this, Trevor, for real. Okay? I'm not making this up. They're literally saying that there's never going to be another Republican. I bet you a gazillion bajillion dollars the next 4 years, there's going to be another Republican. It's going to be as close as it was before. Because 74 million people didn't fucking self-deport. What's up with these idiots? And what's up with their look? Because they listen to CNN. They listen to MSNBC. What's up with that? Why do they keep listening to liars?
Are you talking about the people or the
What? I'm talking about liar people. Like, literally, after we get off on this fucking show, go to Facebook and see how many people are going to just parrot Cuomo and Anderson Van Cooper.
Yes,
like anything they say actually makes any sense.
Well, Chomsky, like he said, you got 20% of the population that's like the teachers, professions like that are influential in that regard that you need to have like on your side. They're more educated than the masses, and that it's important that you get them because they're intellectuals. Then you have 80% that are just the workers. They're not educated, and they are the ones that need to be ordered around. They are, comparable to cattle is basically what it is, and that's how he divided out. They're like cattle, like they're cattle. They're meant to do more jobs with less pay, more overtime. A depleting pension. And now what are they going? They're going after Social Security now. It's in 2006. Republicans have been going after Social Security, and they're going after it again, and they're trying any way they can to get that money back. And the people are suffering because of this, but you know why they hear this stuff? Because they're scared to death. It's fear runs everything. You are allowed to fire at will.
That though.
Well, you're allowed to fire. You're allowed to fire at will.
Go ahead, Brandy. I'm listening.
Okay, Trevor and I talk about this all the time. The reason that they listen to CNN and Fox News and whatever to the fucking president, the reason they do is because they were never taught how to critically think.
That makes sense, though. That makes sense, because literally, if they believe every single thing, even though they lie constantly, Jesus Christ.
But they're desperate too. I think this division in income inequality has driven people to fear so much that don't question your job, don't push for more, don't want more, because you can get fired, and then you are just right above. What did George Carlin say? He said, "There's the rich that make all the money, then there's the middle class that do all the work, then there's the poor just to scare the shit out of the middle class so they won't stop working. And I mean, that's how it is. The people are too scared. Complacency, but there's fear, and they're told that there's fear of losing their job, and they're just so scared for themselves that they need something to target it on. I think in these places give you a...
I'm sorry, finish your thought.
Well, no, because nobody in their right mind could think that Mexicans coming over the border is really a threat at all to us at all. I mean, to anybody. They have no money, they have no credit, they have no voting power, they have nothing, and yet they are vilified. How can anybody think that? Like, it's ridiculous. It is literally ridiculous. We're not losing our jobs because of them, but people need a target. They need something because they're scared to death in real life, and they just don't know why they're scared to death. And the reason is because they're getting screwed by the real enemy, the rich.
Right.
You
so
know,
I agree with that. I agree with that. I will say this, though. I will add a supplement to that. I will say that, so that's how Donald Trump became president, was he gave him a target. And then to top that off, that's how the mainstream media took Donald Trump out. Okay?
Well, I got a question for you on this. I got a question for you guys on this.
He literally didn't cause any new wars, right? He started the First Step Act. He did a whole lot of things that brought us back to we the people. I'm not saying he's first of all, he's an idiot. Okay, he's not the brightest bulb in the fucking bulb factory. Okay, he's an idiot. But he's a daddy's boy. He was bankrupted 6 times. But swear to God, bro, when it came time for him to fucking veto the defense spending bill, who was the only president that did? Okay, so like he's got balls. I like balls.
He didn't do it for the right reasons, and he folded anyways.
I know. You know what, Trevor? You're right about that. But guess what? I don't give a shit. I only care about the result.
Small victories.
It justifies the means. Well, he's
not just an idiot.
You're right. He did not do it for the reasons that I wanted it.
No, he did it for selfish reasons, and therefore they weren't ever going to work, and we all knew that. And he didn't. I mean, the thing about him, you know, he is not a good person. He lacks empathy for other people. He's got a myriad of issues. I think a lot of it's how he was raised. I mean, he is not. You have to have somebody in that position that cares for others. I mean, that is your job, and he does not care. He has no moral issue.
It's not going to be Joe Biden.
He literally, he's pretty bad.
Look, man. Oh, there's a push-up right now. This guy doesn't give a shit.
Well, here's my question.
You ever had a guy in the presidency? Go ahead, Brandy.
No, I was just going to say, we have to have somebody that cares about people. That's ideal, right?
I mean, there hasn't been anybody since 1943 has been in that position.
Look, I mean, it's established, and there's been student councils. Campaign on things, not because they give a fuck about any pizza day, blah, 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 blah. You know, they false bullshit promises, not because they care about the other people. It's just for the vote. So yeah, ideally, is that what we want? Somebody that actually genuinely cares for the well of the people of the nation? Well, yeah. It's never.
You don't have to be like. You don't have to be Abraham Lincoln.
It's a popular.
Yeah, but you don't have to be. But you can't be. I mean, you don't have to be like the person that's. Is she breaking up, or is it me, guys?
I think it's Brandy. Brandy's the one with the low spikes.
Yeah, to your point, Brandy. I mean, you don't have to love everybody, kumbaya. But you can't. You don't have. He's at the other end of the spectrum. He literally doesn't care. I mean, he is willing to sacrifice people and their lives for his own selfish reasons. And you know. I mean, I know there's things like that with the government and with wars and things like that, and that's a whole other issue. But he's something different. He's just something different. But I got a question for you.
Yes, please.
Okay, so here's if it had been, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, obviously. If if Biden, if it wasn't Biden, yeah, oh, I met him. He's a really nice guy. His wife was really, really nice. But anyways, yeah, you actually believe him. You get that feel from him, that he cares. But
the thing about Bernie is that he's a genuine guy who cares, but he's a fucking idiot too, because he actually believes the Democrats. Democrats don't give a shit.
Well, I don't think he does. He works within the system.
He was stringing for $2,000 checks, Trevor. They went in the other room and voted for that defense bill, Trevor. Remember that?
I know, but you have to work
like a chump.
Yeah, but what he's got, I mean, he has. I mean, you have to work within the system. I mean, that's why there's more than one person. It's not just him and 5 other people, in their form. It's a lot of people, and I mean, he knows what he can get away with and what he can't. I mean, there's stories of him going to Republicans and saying, showing them a bill, and they're agreeing with it, and they're saying we'll sign on with it, and he's saying, no, you sign it. I don't need my name on it. I don't need the credit. I don't need I don't need the accusation for it because I want it to pass.
You could argue that that's also being a Trump, but I'm not sure.
No, I mean it's tactical. Politics is, if anything, it's a chess game, right? but here's my question to you guys: if Biden hadn't won and it was actually Bernie Sanders, I bet you the media outlets would have been pushing for Trump and not Bernie.
They can't turn around after they called him a Russian asset. They said he was a fucking Kremlin puppet. They said he was peed on by Russian hookers. They can't go then go back and fucking be like, I forgot. Rah rah rah. Donald Trump.
But Bernie is more. Do that. But Bernie is getting back to manufactured consent. Bernie is scarier to them than Trump is. I mean, they don't like Trump now because Biden is a nice.
Bernie was never going to win, Trevor.
It's not about.
Win.
I know, but the question is about the media. It's about the media. Media is going after Trump now, and they hate him. But I bet you
if unicorns existed,
but they would have.
Yes.
But they would have been singing a different tune if it was Bernie up against them. And I'm saying that's the hypocrisy of it.
I mean, you will never know because he's a chump and unicorns.
Well, I want your opinion. Like, what I think that you would have heard a different.
In Fantasyland shit. Bernie Sanders literally he stopped running after
it's not about
Joe
Bernie,
Biden more fucking delegates.
Well, it's not about Bernie though. It's
like Bernie Sanders. He's a chump.
It's not about Bernie. It's about the.
We'll never know.
It's about the topic. It's about the topic of a conjecture of a hypothetical for manufactured consent, where the media outlets have sung a different tune when their option wasn't nearly as as neutral and as pleasing to them, and that it will keep the status quo as Biden, and was actually Bernie, because I think Bernie and somebody like that is a progressive, is scarier to them than Trump is. But because they have a viable option, then it's attack city on him. They don't care about it. They can. It's about money again,
bro. It's too hypothetical for me to answer.
Well, why?
Almost he was never going to win. It was never going to happen. It's like
manufacturing.
You keep thinking Bernie's going to happen. It's never going to happen.
But it's about the topic of manufactured consent. I know. It's about our topic.
If the rapture came tonight, would the mainstream media still think that Trump was a Russian asset P hooker tape? I don't know.
He's the Messiah, remember?
You understand that this is way too hypothetical to answer?
No. I think someday you're gonna get a progressive candidate, and you're gonna see the media turn on.
You'll never get one, bro. You'll never. That's my point. You'll never get one. No,
this is not sustainable.
The media.
This is not sustainable.
The media and the Democrats. Manos lava. You know Latin, right?
The progressives are Democrats.
Manos lava. One hand washes the other.
Okay, but Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist. Progressives aren't Democrats per se. They operate within a function of that, but they are not Democrats. So I'm saying you will see.
Tell AOC that after she just sold us out. Sorry, Brandy. Go ahead.
No, we're saying the same thing.
But you have to play within the boundaries.
I feel like I'm an angry black man now.
Yeah, I know Martin Luther King Day was just yesterday, and now you're so angry, man. Come on.
only angry because we'll never get it, bro. It's not gonna happen. That's what we're here for. We have to find another fucking avenue. Not the Democrats. The Democrats are so 2000 late, bro. It's over. Joe Biden is over. Joe Biden, the queen of the ball tomorrow, he's literally going to fucking manifest neoliberalism 2.0.
But who did he put to as chairman of the budget committee?
Yeah, who gives a fuck? Whoever heard of the chairman of the budget committee until now? Randy, you ever heard? Who was the last chairman of the budget committee, Randy? Randy, who was last?
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's what they can do with it. Okay. It's what they can do with it.
It's all a fucking farce.
Sorry. No, it's what they can do with that. I'm promising you, like that. There's money. Our taxes go somewhere, and they are able to spend it. I bet you anything, you will get a federal income minimum wage tax increase to $15. I bet you that happens. That's something to a lot of people. That's something.
You know what, Trevor? The only way that happens is if their donors insist it happens, and only because they want to destroy every single small business, so that that McDonald's, Walmart, and Amazon monopolies. And
not true.
Dollars, but
not true. I mean,
the businesses, small businesses, die a painful, Darth Vader-ridden death.
But how did we get
something for that shit?
How did we get the Social Security to begin with? How did we get benefits? The 1930s, they had mass strikes. People died. This went on for years, and their businesses were hurting so much that they went to the politicians and said, change this because we got to fix this because I need money coming in. They changed it, and that's what they're trying to change back now. But that's how you, and they had a FDR, who I'm going to tell you, FDR, we've already had a progressive president because FDR was hell of a progressive.
They made sure that it was the last time. FDR had. They tried to pick his vice president. You remember that?
Okay.
They literally tried to uproot his presidency. And then I'm pretty sure they took
what did he say? And what did he say? And what did he say though? And what did he say? He said, they hate me and I welcome that hate. And he took them on and he beat them.
And they were like, yeah, good. We'll make sure that's the last time we have another progressive ever.
And he beat them. No. I mean, we already had one before we were even born. That's the thing. It happened before we even.
You were so full of optimism, Trevor.
No.
One progressive guy.
Because
one progressive ever had, and now here you are.
What made it happen, though? What made it happen? If the people start realizing that they've been being screwed since the 1970s, and the wealth gap keeps continuing, it's not sustainable. You will have an uprising of some sort. You will.
I hope so. Okay, on that, I hope
it will.
I hope.
Yeah,
because how much more could we?
They're coming. You have media outlets that people are getting information, but there's an issue. But I'm telling you that the wealth gap. All these problems are manifested or exponentially grown by these people's the wealth gap, the fear that you have, and the struggles we're having, exemplify or exponentially increases everything, makes it much stronger and much more puts much more emotion behind it. And you're going to see a cracking point because the rich will never stop trying to get richer, and this will never stop.
How much rich can you be? What is enough for the rich? First of all, all I want is like $100,000 and a nice.
What was that?
A good car. Like that's all I want. Like how much more is more? These guys are weird.
I can't understand it.
Like really, all I want is some food, clothes, and shelter. Like that's all I want. Guys, come on.
You froze. I got to freeze here.
That's all. That's it. That's all I want. I don't give a shit about anything else. I don't understand you guys. Fucking. Oh, now we're gonna fucking go fucking global. Oh shit. Fucking weirdos.
I can't understand anything.
I just don't get these guys. Like maybe if I was born into that, maybe it would be a competition.
You may have to slow down because I don't think the computer can keep up with you. The internet.
That's the thing.
I've only got fiber optic.
I used to date somebody who's a trust fund baby.
Yeah.
And could not fathom why I didn't want to just spend all his money.
Yeah.
Didn't understand it, but I couldn't understand why I would want to do that. I'm like, work really hard to make ends meet.
Yeah.
As long as I'm staying in the green, hey, we're doing okay. And anything I earn or purchased, I worked really hard for. So I couldn't understand, like, what is that even like to be like, oh, I've dropped $80,000 on a new car, a couple mil on a private jet, like.
But these aren't the rich we're talking about.
I mean,
we're talking. You're talking about the
whatever
point
rich we're talking about. I guess they just want. It's about competition because it can't be about like living within. It can't be about living. Your means to live. I just want to live.
It's about hoarding. It's hoarding money.
Is enough, and they don't know.
That's sad. I'll pray for them. So, Brandy.
Well, think about this. They don't. They're born into this life. I mean, these people are born into this. They don't. I don't think they even have a conception like we do of what exactly is happening, or that they're doing something necessarily wrong. They don't see that what they do down the line is letting people die. These people that big farm.
There's a term for that.
And insurance companies that they'll let you die rather than because their life is completely different, and they don't think they even. I don't think they conceptualize even that what is happening. Like they don't put themselves as a problem.
Look.
Their life is just different. They surround themselves with the same people that reinforce themselves, and they live a different life that we could ever.
Hey, so Jax from Grindr. Jax, I was on Grindr earlier today. Are you FML or what? FML Bugatti? Show me your
Grindr. Hey, sis.
Okay. Hit my DMs, okay, Bugatti? Hit me. But if you're gonna say Biden woohoo, never mind. Okay, because we're not talking about that guy. Okay, that guy is the fucking Joseph Elizabeth Biden is a turnoff.
Is it me or everybody else frozen here? I don't.
It's probably just you.
What is going on here? What is this?
Okay. What is this? Yeah, you're not mine either, bro. Not mine either.
My type. Ew, Jax from Grindr. Okay, wow. Anyway, so let's talk about coronavirus.
This guy likes Biden anyway. He doesn't realize that the next middle manager of the country is literally. First of all, the last middle manager of the country incarcerated half of the country, instilled fucking pay-go, which means that we can never get Medicare for all on the floor as a vote. You can never get Medicare for all.
Such bullshit. Such complete bullshit.
Yeah, so.
I think someday it will be.
Oh, I hope.
You can tactically do some things to get the vote up there. You have to put the right places. You have to primary. You have to put the right people in the right places.
He's making noises, so I'm just gonna fucking go ahead and hide his shit.
I got a question for you. This reminds me of the internet. I was gonna say this is about the internet. This is really off, but this is kind of a fun question. So the internet, it's this great thing where we can communicate. It's one of the truly one of the things. Oh, sorry. Truly one of the things that pushed us forward or opened a lot of doors for us as humans. And 50% it's with pornography. So I wonder how long it's going to be when we have AI before we're like, this robot can do all this stuff, and we're like, yeah, that's great. Can you just put a hole in it right there and right there, please? Like,
don't they have those?
You know what's funny is that I was on a conference call with Amplifier, and they were talking about the 10 biggest search engines. The first one is Google. Second one is
it Pornhub?
Yahoo.
Oh.
The third one is Pornhub.
Ah, figured.
That's crazy,
it's okay.
right?
It's totally fine, but I mean,
we're gonna search Pornhub.
We're gonna have a robot that we're like, it can calculate all this and do all these things for you, and they're gonna say all this stuff that it can do, and you're gonna be like, it's amazing. You're gonna be like, yeah, but can it give me head? Like that. I mean, that's what.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is, bro. Because like I have people that give me head already. I don't need fucking to find search engine one.
That's a whole.
Maybe that's what Donald Trump needs. Maybe Donald Trump needs a Stormy Daniels in his life.
That's right. Can you put on layaway? I don't.
Stormy Daniels on layaway. I mean, she tried to put on layaway. Everybody was talking about. She was talking about. He's the savior. He's invincible. First of all, one-term president. And by the way, I don't hold that against him because Jimmy Carter, the nicest president ever, was a one-term president. The only reason he was a one-term president is he decided not to bomb the Brownies, right?
And he's not a good politician. He's just really not.
He wasn't a good politician. No, Donald Trump literally, he during his run, he tried to fucking sleep with a porn star. Well, his wife was pregnant. So that's not the same as not bombing the Brownies to me. Okay?
I mean, true, but we're talking about we're talking about bad characteristics on people that really aren't going to change a damn thing. I'm talking about there will somebody will come that will talk about real change.
Okay, I'm telling you, bro, as a black man, never gonna happen, bro. Welcome to the time of the dead. Welcome to the time. We're not. It's not gonna happen, bro. We're doomed.
There's
okay,
plenty
welcome
of people
to
who
us.
talk about it.
I think that we're going to kill ourselves off as a species. Yes, I do believe that.
I mean, we will. We will.
I have no.
Randy wants to talk about COVID. Randy, should I just give you the floor for that?
I just want to know what the big deal is. Why everybody thinks that this is such a this big ploy to control us. You know, there was 141,000 and some change new cases yesterday in the US. And currently there's 23 million active cases in the US. Oh, my cat had something to say. Why do people think that this is all about control and you're losing your rights and stuff? I mean, people are really sick. Where did y'all go?
Oh, I just want to give you the floor.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Did you want me to stay?
Yeah, stay, because I want to know, because you're somebody who.
Okay. Well, I can answer that question if you like me to, but I don't know if you're finished or not. Are you finished with your thought?
Well, yeah, that was just my thought about that, because I was just researching the numbers before connecting, and I was really surprised. I mean, 141,000 new cases yesterday and 23 million and some change that are still active. That's a lot.
That is.
That's not about.
Can I ask you a question about that? Do you think that's our fault because we're so dumb we didn't put a mask on? And then it's all our fault?
I mean, I didn't wear a mask, right? I didn't know to wear a mask. It wasn't bad yet when I got it. And that thing damn near killed me.
I'm sure.
Would a mask have helped? I don't know. Has it been what's kept me from getting it again? Maybe. I don't fucking know.
So my response to your question is everything you said is true, of course. And I don't dispute it ever. And I know you. And I would never think that you're not telling the truth. I think everything you say is true. However, like they say in House of Cards, never let a good crisis go to waste. Okay?
True.
So just think of what you're saying and what you went through. And this is what I'm talking about the Democrats and the Republicans, Trevor, is that they'll take Brandy's experiences, they'll take her facts, they'll take her truth, and they'll fundraise off of it, and they will manipulate it into something where now we all are slaves to whatever they're asking us to be, right? So it's not just it's not masks. It's not just I don't think COVID. I think COVID exists. COVID's real. I just know that these two parties are what's the word? They have no soul. They have no heart. They're empty inside. They're literally just waiting. They're waiting for a moment. They're like a praying mantis on a leaf, waiting for a moment, an opportunity to take our freedoms and liberty, and to take everything anything that we can have, so they can use it as collateral, political leverage, anything that they can do to maintain power.
So I guess having had it though, I mean, listen, spending 11 days in the ICU and being on a BiPAP machine and not being able to even sit up in my fucking bed without my oxygen saturation dropping into like the 60s, that didn't feel like something that was going to become this big, huge political agenda.
I know.
I
That
thought
sucks.
I was on death's door. Like you know what I
There you
just
are.
survived right before that. So now I was like, fuck, it's really going to happen. This is what's going to take me out.
What's really disgusting.
That's scary. This is scary as fuck.
It was
I mean,
scary as fuck. But so I have a problem with people who say either that it's not real, because of course, you know, there's a huge portion of the population that just does not believe this is real at all.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get that either.
And then there's ones that, you know, it's real, but it's a scam, you know, that, you know, is for XYZ reason. Like it didn't feel like any of those things when I had it.
And you had it, and that's one of the reasons why I believe it's real. Honestly, the reason, because you had it. That's one of the reasons I believe it's real. But I also know these two parties. Okay, so it's completely different.
Well, you're hearing it all over the world too.
I just know these two parties, and I know that they'll use anything they can get their hands on to fucking change everything.
Well, they did. Well, here's the thing. They did use it. They used it to give stimulus to the rich. They used it to give money, and just like they used the bubble and the mortgage crisis. They used these crises to enrich themselves. They do that. They're opportunists, though. I don't think they created this. I think they took advantage of it, and they will take advantage. But as far as COVID itself, I mean, you know, there are other countries. I mean, we look around the world. There's enough communication that we know it's real, because it's not just here, and it's the fact that you have in Britain, they're getting 80% of their paycheck, 80% of their paycheck. All right, a month. Here we can't even get $2,000. Here we get $1,200, and that was our Treasury Secretary, you know, Mnuchin said that should last you about 10 weeks. Is he insane? I mean, that's crazy talk.
I mean, these people are out of touch.
But yet they give. Here's what they do. They allow the banks to take the money. They say, you give the money out. We're giving you hands push into it. And by the way, you're not taking any risk. So we'll back up everything that you give out here. So bank would usually charge a fee because they're taking a risk. Well, they just give it away. But what do? They take their $10 billion fee anyways, even though they have no risk. It's been insured by the federal government, because it's greed. It's greed. You know, it's greed run wild, and they will take anything to do that. And then they turn to us, and they can give all this money away to these companies, and they can give all this money away to, you know, they make these small businesses. They make the characteristics of the spec form. I mean, hedge funds shouldn't qualify for this stuff, yet they do, and they give it to the bank, give it to their best customers. And what do? They turn around and say, what do when they turn around and we want $2,000? They turn around and say to us, oh, whoa, we got to watch the deficit. Oh my! It went up $1 trillion.
That was hilarious.
It went up $1 trillion. It went up $1 trillion.
That was fucking hilarious.
$1 trillion under Trump. Under Trump, his Republicans, $1 trillion, and they turn around and say that crap. That is insulting. That's insulting. I mean, that is.
I agree.
It's so
insulting. It's just it was par for the course, honestly.
Yeah, but you just came full circle. That's what Tommy was saying earlier about basically these big box companies wanting to shut down all the mom and pop stuff.
Well, they're opportunists, though. I mean,
go ahead. I was just putting some music on, you know. I don't know how to make this I just want to make this. Anyway, I was trying to make the.
Did I miss the part where you shared about your band or no?
Your what?
Your band.
Oh, did I? Did you miss that?
I think I might. If you share it, I missed it.
Man, there's like, I'm trying to figure out a way that I can put music on, but like not. Okay, well anyway, so I'm gonna share about my band right now, and then I'll turn the music off because I don't like this fucking what's going on right now. But let's see. Anyway, so my band. So you guys know that I and Mark Zuckerberg have a war, right? We've been waging a war. Basically, he took off my video. The last video we had with technocrat censorship in the ruling class. You know when we were all talking about it? I think you were actually kind of defending him, Trevor.
Oh, I'm not defending Mark Zuckerberg.
You weren't.
I think he's
okay. Well, he didn't like it. He was butthurt. So he went to my wall. And by the way, they do this all the time. They go la 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 la. Oh, Tommy Nation. They took my entire live stream off my wall. But they didn't do it to me. They did it to Jordan Keratin of the independent media. They've done it to a lot of people. They're just taking shit off they don't like.
Well, because they're private company. I know. It's not right.
It's a private company. Yeah. Yeah. Where was that shit? Where was that shit when the bakers were banging gay cakes, not gay cakes? Remember that shit?
I mean, that's the thing. They're a private organization. They're allowed to do it however they want. The capitalist way would say, then form another company and compete with them and allow it for everybody. You get government involvement, which, I mean, you know, I have no problem with government regulation and government, but everything that's free speech oriented is about government, you know, censoring your speech. It has nothing to do with private organization.
I will walk into, and I swear to God, now I want a French Revolution.
Yeah.
I want to fucking kill all these people, hypothetically.
Don't say that.
Hypothetically.
Well,
are we metaphorically after the fact? I don't want to be.
Oh, it's okay. Like I do this all the time. Metaphorically, hypothetically, I'll kill you people. Then I'll walk into your fridge and I'll fucking find the best ice cream probably money can buy. And then I'll take a shit on your corpse as I fucking suck the blood out of your dead, battered, beaten skulls.
But didn't Trump play a part in the person he put over communication or what is it? What's the office? It handles censorship. They basically right? Yeah, they put in, they regulated the internet. He's decreased the freedoms on the internet in his 4 years in office by the people he's promoted, who are systematically, just like Bannon wanted, taking down the organ, you know, taking down actual like the FDA, the you know.
Going back to my whole point, he's a dumbass, and.
He's not a dumbass. He's just
doing everything on purpose. He's all by accident. Like, do you think he hired Michael Pompeo and John Bolton by himself?
No, he was told to.
Okay, exactly, bro.
He was told to. The ExxonMobil CEO being in charge of
by himself, bro. I think it's all by total fucking freak accident.
I
did it again.
The Secretary of Foreign Affairs is actually this ex-CEO of ExxonMobil. Like, come on. Of course they said, get one of our cronies in here. We need to keep the status quo. Of course. He's manipulative. He can be manipulated. I mean.
He can't be manipulated. All you have to do is say some good shit about his long-ass tie made from China.
That's exactly true.
Really, you seem like a 10. You're a 10.
The best. You're the best.
The best, man.
The best I've ever seen.
Excuse me.
Have you watched The President Show on Comedy Central?
I'm sure. I watched him as a puppet. What was that thing? There was this thing with him as a puppet, and he's like, his hair got a mind of its own.
Did you ever see the one with what's her name, Kellyanne Conway? Did you ever see her puppet on the Jimmy Kimmel Show? It's hilarious.
No, what happened?
She's like this. She's not a good looking woman, and she makes a really ugly puppet.
She's like a Barbie that fucking aged in acid. Kellyanne Conway.
She looks like a human beef jerky, like, to me.
She's like if the Joker was a female and fell into that vat of chemicals, like it fucking that big.
It was salted. It was salted.
But she didn't get hot.
I'm a lot happier.
She looks like that toxic waste thing off of RoboCop. You remember that? I'm
Oh my god, I remember that shit. That was scary as fuck when I was a kid, bro.
So did I.
I was like, well, guys, not only is his presidency over though, and Joe Biden is now princess of the ball, but also like QAnon is turned against Donald Trump, bro. I don't know if you've seen this shit. I want y'all to watch this shit with me. Watch this shit. I want you to comment with me. Comment.
Alex Jones surprised everybody this week when he flipped on QAnon.
Broke all that, we know that. I'm saying Q tells us stuff that all of it's lies, is what I'm saying. You keep interrupting me. Because you're lying! Because you're full of shit! That's why! Because every goddamn thing out of your people's mouths doesn't come true. And it's always, oh, there's energy, now we're done with Trump. You said he was the Messiah! You said he was invincible! You said it was all over! They were all going to get him! Oh, no, he's part of a larger thing of Q! I will not suffer your Q people after this! I knew what you were day one! I know what you are now, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all these witches and warlocks and pumpkin possums and everything. Oh, God. Sorry. Bye back to you. I can't talk more.
So yeah, Alex Jones is now not part of the Q movement, guys. I don't know if you heard that shit.
Alex
But
Jones.
it's all up in the air now, bro. Like everybody.
I think he's got other issues going on, and he's doing this. I mean, if you listen to his ex-wife and some of the claims she makes, I mean, he's not necessarily stable, and he's promoting his own products. I mean, a lot of this is just about getting.
That's why I confuse competition.
I mean, did he really believe that these were actors? Did he really believe that? Did he really believe that city? What was it? The elementary school.
Oh yes, he believes that
with the shooting.
crisis actors.
Yeah,
did he? Did he really believe it?
He got sued, man. He's like now broke as fuck because of that shit now.
Oh yeah, no, but at the time, but he didn't see that. He didn't see that. He didn't see that ahead of time. I think he got ahead of himself and it backfired. But I think he does this stuff to promote his stuff for when he does it to make money. He's a joke. He stands for nothing.
Well, that's why you did the Q thing too?
Yeah, I don't think he really believes any of that crap. Because if you really did, you wouldn't change that quickly.
You don't think so? I mean, they've been wrong constantly, though.
Well, yeah, but they don't know they're wrong.
He was like the big shaman that was going to get the pedophiles. Like the pedophile, like ninjas, were going to like, wah, wah, wah. Woo, we like to feel little kids. And then
true believers.
Ninjas.
Kitty did
Are the Senate. Heart of Bear, Megazord.
You're right. They're wrong. But they can't give you facts, but they truly believe what they believe, and they won't change that easily. It will take a while for them to take over. They believe they're part of a movement, part of a religious movement and they are literally like the Stand and Stephen King. There's right and there's a wrong, and they are there to conquer this. Damn democracy, damn anything. It is to them a spiritual almost thing. It's true. It's a cultish. It's cult.
It's a cult. I don't give a shit. I'm not a religious person, so everybody that is, I just kind of laugh at. I don't know. I'm sorry about that if you're a religious, Trevor, but
no, I don't believe.
So I laugh at them, and so that's me. All right, so this is my last video that I'm gonna show, and then we're gonna reply off of this, and then we're gonna go. But I don't know if y'all see this before. As you know, Joe Biden, he's a liar. And so therefore, his stimulus he said Bernie Sanders changed his mind, $2,000 checks. Oh my God. Turns out he wants $1,400 checks.
Hey guys, how's it going? Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. So I was just reading the news about the stimulus. Joe Biden's gonna have for you guys, huh? Yeah. Joe Biden. Joseph Elizabeth Biden. He's really gonna take care of you guys, isn't he? Uncle Joe. Well, I like cookies and cream ice cream. The one thing I like about Joe There's not a lot to like. He likes ice cream. I like ice cream.
He
I like
does
cookies
like
and cream
ice
ice cream.
What the fuck?
But you know the difference between me and Joe? Joe Biden's a liar.
He's not as good looking either.
I want to ask you guys a serious question.
He used
While I'm eating my ice cream. I can't figure it out. Brain freeze. Why you guys believe liars all the time? Y'all really upset about those $2,000 checks, huh? Uncle Joe told you you were gonna get $2,000. He said Bernie Sanders changed his mind, right? Yeah. That's cool you listen to Joe Biden. He lied. Have fun. The next 4 years are gonna be nothing but him lying to you and doing the exact opposite thing. But we're gonna eat ice cream together. And I'm gonna watch as literally everything he says is gonna be a total lie. And y'all probably won't even care. Which is gonna be the sad part. But I'm gonna be thoroughly entertained by the fact you guys actually believe liars. Never ending astonishment, guys. Y'all astound me every day. Believe a liar after liar after liar. Oh, hey guys. You know those guys that said there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Let's believe those guys. You know the guys that said that we bombed Syria and we did a chemical gas attack, or Assad did, and we did it? Hey, let's believe those guys. Do you know the guy that incarcerated half the country and was a pawn for prisons in the military industrial complex for years, paid by the credit card companies, Raytheon, Boeing? Let's believe that guy. Yeah. It works out sometimes, doesn't it? No, never does. But yet, you still keep doing it. Still keep believing Uncle Joe. Well, guys, at least you're entertaining me now. Combination politics.
What kind of ice cream was that? Like from where?
I was cookies and cream ice cream, guys, and I want to know your response. Why y'all believe it?
I used to work for Raytheon, actually.
You used to work for Raytheon?
Yes,
How'd that
I
go?
I left because I didn't agree with. And
Well, that's good. You have principles and values, and that's why you're on Top Nation Politics, Trevor. Randy Fenty is my new admin, by the way, guys. My Top Nation Politics Facebook page. I made her that way. She always got my back, and
I always have your back.
She does. So I decided to make her an admin. She's part of Rebel headquarters now.
Wow.
TYT, the Young Turks, no longer the Rebel headquarters. They until someone gives me $24 million of Hillary Clinton money, I am going to be at Rebel headquarters. Okay.
But what about
give me $24 million anytime you want? Okay. Y'all know. Look, I'm giving you my caption. Contribute to PayPal. Tommy Nation Politics. Put that $24 million right there, guys.
Woo.
Anytime you can, okay? And then I will.
What about
I'm talking about the military industrial complex. I'll start talking about Boeing. I'll say, oh my God, did y'all see what Raytheon did yesterday? They saved a baby out of a tree. Oh my God, I love these guys. Oh, Joe Biden, his hair looks so nice today. Oh dear, did y'all see Joe Biden the other day?
Hey, what do you think of the Tommy Nation? What do you think of the Tommy Nation?
I was a hot dog and I was starving. I would eat Joe Biden's ice cream. I believe that. Oodle lolly, golly, what a day. Oodle lolly.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Do you guys like the Tommy Nation or the Majority Report or? I like them a lot, actually. I mean, I listen to the Tom Hartman program. The Tom Hartman program is really good.
If you listen real closely, Trevor, they're all syndicates of TYT, which took $24 million of Hillary Clinton money. So if you listen real carefully, you're going to hear them talk. You're going to hear them talk about Assange and say Assange is a terrorist, domestic terrorist. You hear language like that.
I think TYT, she just came out today and said that she hopes that he gets a pardon from Trump. I just saw that.
I know, because of all their fucking audience. They're like, what the fuck are y'all doing? Why are y'all fucking acting like this?
Why?
But that's reverse. You got to be. There is a reality. There's a truth, and there's. I mean, you got to. We can't start assuming everything that's said by somebody is the opposite of what they're saying by everybody, because then we need a reality. And some people, you have to take them to the word to the
reality. What did Morpheus say about reality?
Well, are we in a?
Yes, we are. Congratulations. You win the prize. No, what does he win, Brandy? Your old camel. Watch out, they spit.
Hey, what's the line? Ignorance is bliss. Right?
What?
Ignorance is bliss.
I agree, bro. And is ignorance is bliss? Is that like the is that the last little thing we're gonna have here?
That's what he's cutting the steak, and the guy who turns on him, he's like, I've learned one thing: ignorance is bliss. And he's meeting with he goes, I know this steak isn't real, but my mind's telling me this, or the computer's telling me it's juicy and it's tasty. He goes,
I think so, Tommy.
Guys, this was Tommy Tenacious Politics. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go line by line with my panel. They're gonna have a final thought to say, and we're gonna close back up. Right? We're gonna start with Brandy. Brandy.
Coronavirus is real. That's all I have to say. Quit fucking saying it's not.
Quit fucking saying it's not, bitches. You're gonna have to answer to my admin, Brandy said T. Rebel headquarters, motherfuckers. Trevor Callaghan, what you gotta say?
Someday the people are gonna learn that the politicians, they don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about them. They don't care about them. They don't care at all. Live or die with your children, live or die. They don't care about you.
I agree with that shit. And I'm Tommy Tenacious Politics telling you to make sure that you're free thinking, innovative, and totally open-minded. Joseph Elizabeth Biden, I'm coming for you. And hell's coming with me. You got it. Hell's coming with me. People listen to Tommy Tenacious Politics. Good night.